I'm so professional. I'm so professional. I'm only using one monitor this week. That's it. That's all we're doing today.
Did
I'm
it
a...
blow the other one blow up or something?
No, the other one. I've lost the cable. In moving my entire apartment around, I have seemed to lose my mouse, lose the cables to my monitor, my second
Yeah.
monitor,
Yeah.
and a bunch of other things have gone missing then too as well, but just like random stuff, like
Didn't you just move it like
controllers.
a few feet away?
I literally
Or
rotated the room 180,
yeah.
and like I don't know where it went. It's
Yeah.
disappeared to me. It's gone to the world,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't know anymore. I'm just over it
It's
all.
like uh it's like when you turn something into a JPEG, there's some lossiness, and it's like if you just rotate your room four more times, you'll just only have a desk.
Genuinely, just what is my fucking life? This room is Pandora's box, man. Or you know what I mean? Things come in, they don't come out. That's what happens when you're a stoner, I guess. It's just you put things down, you walk away for 30 seconds, you're like, where is that again? What did I do with that thing? How's your week going so far? Happy Friday to you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
We did record an episode on Tuesday, but I messed it up again, so we're gonna have to do our first editing episode. Woohoo! So I got an action-packed weekend for that. I'm looking forward to that. But
Great.
then we played Multiverses this week. That was fun. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smashing nerds. That was crazy.
You
And then
know,
all of a
just
sudden, go on, go on,
oh,
go on. No, 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 go
oh
on.
yeah, yeah. So Multiverses as of yesterday, it actually was on. It was like top 10 on Steam charts.
They had a big patch or something yesterday, did they?
Not a big patch yet. Evo, which is the fighting game World Championships, that is this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And they did say they're gonna do some patches after Evo because they're gonna. Here's the thing, they have
It's gonna
a
be at
tournament.
Evo at
Yeah,
already.
yeah, it is.
Oh, no
It's
wonder.
not. It's
That's
not.
a
It's,
that's a
it's
great
not an
launch.
official game. Yeah, it's not an official game. It's a side game. But even as a side game, it has a bigger prize pool than all the other games combined. Combined.
Combined.
Yeah, WB is like, here's some,
That's so funny. Oh yeah,
chump
we're the
change.
side game. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just wait until
Yep.
you put that on the main screen. Just you
Yeah.
wait. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
that. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
I tell you, that's nice though. That is nice
Mhm.
in a genre that has especially look. Esports has gone mainstream. It's massive now, right? It's not the way it was. Even ESL's fucking 15 years ago, we were like, this is the it. This is the pinnacle. CSS, like, what the hell? We're selling out Katowice. This is insane. But, like, fighting games have never had the money in it. The money
Yep.
has always been in, like, those side betting hustle things, like money
That is,
matches and
yep.
stuff, like
That
this
is correct.
degenerate stuff. But, like,
That is correct.
uh, but I like the idea because Nintendo is neglected. Like they have Brawl, right? You have Melee. Like you have these legacy titles that have stood the test of time to the state of StarCraft 2, Star Brood War, and nothing. You know, like just very very disappointing. Another reason for me to hate Nintendo because I realized that my Nintendo Switch purchase was a fucking fallacy, and I don't know why I bought this thing.
Yeah, Nintendo's very weird on their esports. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah,
Well, they're
not
very
a
weird.
lot of
They're just
support.
weird in general. Like I
Yeah.
just genuinely like I get controlling the narrative, right? Like, but in general, you know, it's what's their whole video policy that happened a couple of years ago? Like, how did that get
Right,
resolved? Do you
right.
remember what
Yeah,
ended up happening there?
I don't know the resolution, but yeah, there's a lot more takedowns, and I don't know anymore.
Anyway, whatever. Multiverses was fun, and it's kind of led into a topic of today, which I'm going to force upon us. Uh, Building complexity within character rosters. Now, or just in general, right? And what I mean by building complexity in this moment is we have this interesting cast of characters, right, that are kind of beholden to their theming, right? We have Bugs Bunny, we have Superman, we have, you know, I don't know, we had Arya Stark.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, some Game of Thrones
yeah,
characters.
like
Supposedly Gandalf is gonna be coming too. He's gonna be a
I'd
whole
fucking
bag of
play. I would
tricks.
play Gandalf. I would
No,
absolutely play Gandalf.
not a Frodo kind of guy. Instead, won't you want to play Frodo?
Fuck you. Fuck you. I'll take that as a personal attack. Yes, yes, no. So here's the thing: is that when you have that, how do you end up building? You have unique characters with unique themes and things people are expecting. Same thing on Smash, right? Hey, you have to put Minecraft Man into you're putting Steve in the game. So with those constraints, how do you build movement sets for characters while also then making the cross pollination between other characters and strengths and weaknesses and things like that? Now, oh, sorry. One of the things I wanted to clarify before I forget is does and I think I saw this in the game I think, but I didn't really pay attention to it. Multiverses has tags for characters. Like some of them say hybrid, some of them say blah. Like what are those themes? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, they're like sort of MOBA-ish. Like there's tank and there's DPS basically and support. I think it's like just three off the top of my head, basic ones. There's probably four, but there's basic MOBA stuff kind of.
Do you feel like those characters fit those roles?
Yeah. Well, okay. They definitely mostly do. Yes, that is correct. But you might have some support characters that can kill. That's like the main difference. Because in support in League, you're not gonna really kill that much.
Unless you're on fucking bottom lane and you're level 3 and you all in and that fucking support just fucking steals your first blood and you're just like fucking I want it.
That is the one.
You just
case,
alt
yeah.
F4 and turn the computer off. And you just say fuck you, dude.
I
So,
had a smite match, by the way. I remember this where I accidentally got like 3 kills, and I was like, "Sorry, man. I apologize every time." And the guy was raging, but I was like, "Wait a minute. I'm so high level. I'm gonna
I'm
keep going
carrying.
for it."
I'm
So
carrying.
I kept killing. I had like 7 kills, and we won the match easily. But the guy still bitched at me,
There you
and
go.
I never forgot that moment.
I want to be the hero. I'm the hero. I picked the DPS role. I'm the one.
Look,
Yeah, I was
that's
like,
all I ever
won
feel.
the match. I won the match.
Exactly.
Go on, go on.
Team game, dude. Team game. Just bringing up repressed League of Legends
Yeah,
memories
yeah.
over here. Just don't worry about it at all. Definitely not a trauma-inducing game after
Yeah.
years of play. But here's the thing, right? So uniqueness is something that we want to strive for, especially when we're looking at this like funky game that has supposed to have all of these combinations. How do you think Warner Brothers has approached, or the studio behind this game? My apologies for not looking into that. How do you think that they've approached that problem in your mind? Is there things that they might have, been able to do better? Well, actually, don't just answer maybe just answer the first one. We'll start there.
For me, the absolute biggest thing is the fact that it focuses on 2v2. I put, in the fighting game world, you are 1v1, and the developers want to strive for some balance. And as a result, a game like, say, Street Fighter is like, they're total esports. They have to really pay attention to balance. They gave everyone like almost the same tools, more or less. Same with Tekken. And there are some games that get a little bit more wild, but it's because it's 1v1. They have to be careful. But when I see Multiverses design, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of variety. You have Iron Giant who takes up like half the screen, and
That
he's
is
like a
pretty
big
cool.
hitbox.
That is
But
pretty cool.
but I believe I'm not super familiar with him in 1v1, but I've seen some clips where he just gets mauled in 1v1 because he's too
Too
big
slow.
a target. Yeah, exactly. But he works in 2v2.
So here's the thing then, right? So one of the ways that we would approach this generally, if we're saying we have a character battler game, right? We want to have abilities and we want to maybe have some overlap with those abilities and create some things. Using different vectors to focus our design at a higher level than the characters is really important, right? So Bugs Bunny has a thing that they can hit something, right, and they can smash it out of the way. So is that technically a projectile? Technically, right? So
Yeah.
they've come up with a cast of a few different vectors to like manage their own thoughts here, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
They have roles that try to define what the skill sets are in terms of those characters. Somehow they've bucketed those things. We haven't even gotten there yet. And again, like for anybody who does the 8 viewers that don't listen to this for 30 seconds, we're spitballing here. We're trying to go through the process of figuring it backwards engineering their design to try and see where could they go and where could and
Yeah,
how does this
exactly.
also apply to other games within the genre? Because you're totally right. This is the mixture now of MOBAs in fighting games, and just as you say, Tekken is a 1v1. Both characters all have relatively the same styles of things that they can do. It's like, right, everybody has a high kick, everybody has a low kick, everybody has a
Yeah, yeah.
punch.
Hmm.
Some people, most of them, right, can throw something like a high, not a Tekken Hadouken, but like, I don't can't, or do something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
no, they can. And actually you're right. Like every character can launch and bring them up into the air with some general moves, but they differentiate with like slightly different properties. Like, oh, this guy can hit this way. And it's very subtle differences on various moves.
And it's super interesting, right? Because it is kind of homogenization of characters and character sets, but the differentiators are these sliders, the balance on the back end,
Like,
how big the hitbox is,
yeah.
how this gets
Sl-
into all the frame data, right? Like how long does it
exactly.
take to punch for this thing? So, um, I'm really hoping that the breakdown doesn't happen for that in Multiverses, but I don't think that they're going to have that problem because the layering of abilities has allowed for more creativity. But I wonder, like, especially with MOBAs, we always think of what's your win condition, right? So when we were playing Bugs Bunny and I was playing Reinhardt, like, I just kept thinking our win condition is you put that blue box down, I'm gonna try to Y jump straight into it, and we're just gonna try to double hit and knock them off, and like that's
Absolutely
the
true.
only way that we're really gonna win. And then next game, then learned about the crystal, and then was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make that our win condition. So just like let's play around this and try to see how those things go. But I haven't played enough of the game to see the character breadth to see how much crossover there actually is within character movement sets. Now, extracting away from like uh I don't know, some people can swing a sword this way or that way. It's more going to be on the, you know, this thing has projectile I saw and charged abilities and what were the other categories that they had?
Well, honestly, they had like this whole debuff system where you might have seen an icon over some people's heads, so that's also something that's kind of new. I will say this though, there's something that this game has that Smash doesn't really have, and that's cooldowns, and that's like one of the that's probably the biggest change, because when you throw cooldowns in, like you said with bugs, it's like all right, our win condition is to wait till bugs' safe cooldown is up, and then we play around the safe and get some big kills. In Smash, it's like you always have the same moveset, so you're kind of doing the same thing, relatively speaking.
You're afforded to do the same move over and over
Yeah,
again if you
right.
can. I didn't perceive cooldowns when I was playing the game, which is interesting. Uh,
Well, Rain Dog actually doesn't have any, I believe.
oh, that's funny. Okay.
No, he does have one, but you didn't know about that move.
I didn't even use it. That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, so when we're talking about then trying to build good crossover between our characters here, the approach I would take is setting up right like go down the movement sets or go down the character list by itself. So it's like, hey, let's pick our favorite characters. Let's find what is the most important things to those characters, or like what are the core themes to that character, and then take the personality of that character and try to fit it into some sort of role, right? So like if it's Taz, well, Taz is a very speedy character, and a lot of times we see him in the Looney Tunes. He's like moving really fast, but then he's also really slow. And does Taz ever deal? You know, he's always got Acme products, right? And things are kind of blowing up in his face, right? So like, okay, that's interesting. He's a smaller kind of character compared to the other ones, all right. So then you start then building out this idea of maybe what is that concrete balance of that character look like. It's got to be fast. It's got to be speedy. You know what I mean? Taz never really hits anything within the Looney Tunes show. He's kind of the punching bag. So it's like, should he do a whole lot of like big damage? Probably no. but maybe the big damage comes from the explosions that he can put down, and can we do something interesting if it like does blow up in their face, right? From there, I think like if you do that with most of the characters and try to fill them, look back over your list of stuff and try to figure out like cull it down. Like what's the commonalities between those things, right? So that's where they're probably then finding these things like projectiles, like they pick this thing up and they throw it, and or they shoot it from themselves. They've got a gun, so they've got to have that, right? Or like once you have those positions, or is that a way that you would approach that design? Because I would probably start from that side and start breaking it down, and then from there try to find those any sort of commonality between them.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's a good thematic way to approach it, where you're looking at all the whole cast, and then you're like, all right, what kind of mechanics should we tie them together with? That's a good approach. I don't know if I would have approached it that way.
Take
One thing that does make a difference is they're working with all these IPs,
yeah.
which I'm guessing a lot of our viewers will not have IPs to start with, so that they're kind of forced to go the other way, which is think about mechanics first.
This is true.
So when you asked that
So you
question,
just have
that
blank.
that was my first thought, which was I would start with the mechanics only because I don't have other things to quite start with, but you could still do your approach.
No, I'll tell you just how uncreative I am. Or I just went to
No,
somebody
no.
else's work and I just said, "Hey, how can I fucking take these puzzle pieces and, and
That
rearrange
is how
them?"
most people idea. And just a really quick deviation, one of the recent videos by Game Maker Toolkit is about smashing together two genres, and that is very similar to the IP approach, because you're taking two ideas and smashing them to generate ideas for you, because it's very hard to just come up with raw new mechanics otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I think this is also, yeah, the difference between the commercial world and just like making something fun. It's like, I mean, in my scenario, I'm not really trying. The innovation is in putting all of the characters together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or it's like, where are you innovating? It's like on the 2v2, it's on the matchmaking, it's on the overlap, and that overlap is a big question, and it usually comes up within these things of how much overlap do we need to build in, right? Because like I can then start pairing characters from my side and say, okay, here's all of these abilities that I have. Some of them are kind of crazy mechanics that I just like take those out, but then some of them I start circling and say, actually, that one would work kind of well with this one. Maybe actually I should change this one over here to more match that kind of style. Then it pairs up with these three other characters, and I can kind of see the tree of how things can kind of go together, and I can start, fudging that puzzle together to get like a better idea of what is my base level movement set, and then from there I start adding more characters and filling out the holes within the meta or the play styles that I want to have. That's another way to do it too, is I think from the more mechanics driven side, is just thinking about how do you want the player to play this character, like how, what is would you ever think of it from that side actually? Because maybe that is me just defaulting to there as a design pattern of like, as a player, who's gonna play this character, right? Like you're gonna sit down, you like fast speedy characters, you like loads of combo-y moves, like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think to your point about innovation. Yeah, like you don't have to like go down to the super base level to innovate a lot. Like you said, if you have a lot of innovative characters, and that's a good enough to create like a really big experience. And like you said, I think the game has already set a tone that they're gonna have like pretty crazy characters that match your favorite IP. So in terms of filling roles, yeah, definitely. If you if you've played enough games with a lot of other people, you already like have a bunch of personas that are in your
Personas,
head.
yeah.
Like it's like probably hundreds of different personas that you can think of, and it is definitely nice to cover all those bases, because I'm sure you have played games with people, and just seeing people connect with a character is an amazing feeling. So you want to create that in your own.
Is it too? You know, that'd be a really cool Evo survey with that coming up. Like, just very general. What kind of characters do you like to play the most?
Yeah.
And just like, just give them some real real basic ass prompt there, and see what people say. It's like, do some people go and say characters that get more damage over time, or characters that I like characters that are more heavy risk or something like that, but bigger payouts or something. But it's harder to define those things, because thinking of player archetypes within Street Fighter games, or any of the general fighting ones, I get confused. I'm like, how many are there? Like, because it really is just a counter to counter. So it's like, style does play in. I think style plays in more in Melee than I think in some of the other games as well. But
Yeah, that I mean, actually, that's a question I ask
many.
people a lot. I ask them, why do you pick that character that you
Yeah.
pick, and it's a question I love
Oh,
asking.
you asked me that the other day too.
I did. I asked you.
I had the worst answer in the world.
Well, I think if I remember right, you said you like to play safe characters that kind of have a lot of tools.
At the start, yeah, I like to play safer characters at the start, because
Yeah.
I wanna have something that's more even, well-rounded, with escapes that I'm not the one that's going to hold down the team, because I just think of myself as like a punching bag. Like, I'm more trying to watch you, like, than actually playing the game in a lot of ways. Taking easy wins is really what I would say. And you saw me. I was just all I was trying to do is just hook you into danger at all times. That's it.
And I do like chaos. Yeah, and
so
just
much
to
fun.
give people an example of how varied of an answer you'll get, I'll just give some answers I got recently. So I asked somebody why did they pick their Multiverses character. They said they look for looks and personality first, and then they just play with whoever. And then there's me personally. I tend to pick a character that other people aren't playing, because I like to kind of discover new stuff on my own. That's another angle. Somebody I talked to, he didn't know this. I made the call out first. I was like, "Do you just love robot characters?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I do." Like, he just only plays robot characters. So there are a lot of vectors, and I think people, whether you're making a PvP game or an RPG, you should ask people, like, why do you play your WoW class? Like, what are you looking for? You're gonna build up a huge knowledge base of, like, personality to persona.
It's always super interesting that those answers go to the style and looks, and not, not what the character is or what it does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our first inklings are super interesting, and it gets me to think that, like, mechanical approach to fighting games is almost the worst way to do it. Starting from the end, from there, rather than saying, hey, just character artist, like, here's build my theme and build my world first, and then try to fill characters in around it and put those to the people, and just say, what would this person do?
Yeah, and like oh, and one more archetype is a person who only picks top tier characters.
Oh yeah.
But everyone I asked are hardcore gamers. But of course, if you ask casual gamers, they're like, "Man, I just love Johnny Bravo."
That'd be so
you're gonna get
sick.
that.
God damn.
Oh,
I
he
wanna
is.
play-
He is coming.
Oh shit. All right, new favorite game. I'm getting my fight stick from my mate. I'm going back over to his home, and I'm gonna go pick it up. Oh god, I'm
Nice.
gonna waste so much time on this. Yeah. So, like, those things are super interesting, right? Because character identification and interpersonality with yourself, who you are socially online, is all based around who you put yourself out into the world. And we have that at a couple of different vectors in different video games, right? In MOBAs or whatever, we have our banners, we have our rank badges, we have our player icon, we have our player name, Player level is usually an identity factor then too. But the biggest one is our avatar, and that's where we get invest and express. As mobile gamers, or even just after, or just, regular things like this and free to play, if I am social, being able to show myself off in a unique way that makes me feel good is the same way of you putting on cool clothes and going out for the night. It's the same thing. It's like you garner that feeling out of how good you feel about your character. And it has a marked improvement on how you play too. People who are more comfortable in, like, there's been a couple of studies with this, but I think like a good example, maybe this is just like, hearsay or whatever, right? But Faker back in League of Legends used to only ever play with default skins just because he just liked those characters better. He felt like he played better. And I think he only ever played with a skin one time in LCS, and it was like, or in the entirety of like his competitive play or whatever. Maybe he's on it now, right? But a big thing there is just like feeling, other players will pick very specific skins because they feel good about those things. If you feel good about your character and you feel good about the way you look within the game, that kind of helps you to go a little deeper, grind a little more, hit some more tones than, you know what I mean, like, or like think about it a little bit at a lower level, because you're attaching to that unit by itself. And I don't know where the balance comes in then when we're talking about this thing of building complexity and starting from these smaller building blocks like projectile, charged abilities, electrocute, these very like light themes. How much those matter when it comes down into the thing. Like, which is the balance? Obviously the game needs to be fun. Obviously there needs to be something else going on. But where's the place where then I say, actually I like that character, but I hate their moveset. And if all these people are starting with the character, how long until they figure out like this is a bummy movement set and I hate this and I'm getting beat the fuck around the place and I really like this character, but this I can't play, and then how does that factor into my love of the game, right? Like my attachment to the thing.
That's a super great question, and it's actually relevant to my experience with multiverses. But yeah, this is a concept I haven't thought about. It's like express verse, I don't know, performance or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's some kind of term around that. I do want to ask a quick question about expression first. How much do you think multiplayer versus single player matters in terms of the power of expression? If it's a single player game, is it like a lot worse or is it about the same in your experience?
So I'll give you another example. I'll counter with a different one, right? Would you think that people would play Animal Crossing as much as they do if they couldn't share their properties? If people couldn't come to it, I couldn't take a screenshot, I couldn't post it online, I couldn't talk about it, or I can't talk about it, but I can't show it. If people couldn't see it, would you think that people would do it as much?
That's a great question. I know for sure, yes, of course, people will still play it. They'll still play stuff like The Sims and whatnot. But the question is, how much less? And I
And
don't know.
that's usually the answer for me. Is like there's a level of people who will always play it, and people will enjoy it, and they'll enjoy their time, and that's great. That's what you want, right? Like I play Minecraft to enjoy and build stuff in there, and I enjoy my time, but I love doing it with my friends, and then I love being able to take those things and like I love it when my friends show me their places, right? And kind of go into it that way. And I think that they get a reward external to the game based off of that, because they get approval for their work and time. Also doesn't make it feel as wasted, because they're getting that reaffirmation. And then also then I then get that K factor where I'm like, oh, I haven't played Minecraft in a minute. Oh, let's play Minecraft with my boy. Oh yeah, we'll go over here. We'll build this other thing over here. We'll start a new world. Blah blah blah. Like these things, I think compound then into, more people trying to play and play for longer, and because it's social reinforcement, as just like a big factor. So, but to go back, people will still play. but
Okay.
it is about like how much.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a good question.
You gotta get them hooked, dude. You gotta get them hooked on the skins. Get them hooked on the
Yeah.
skins.
So with Multiverses, when I first heard the game announced, I was like, man, if they put Space Jam characters in there, I'll play it. Even though um, I was half joking. But then they threw in LeBron. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna be forced to play LeBron, and I did. I played him a lot. He's not a oh not
That's why I said I was like LeBron James, like hell yes, let's go, dude. I
Yeah.
want to play LeBron James.
Not only do actually when you actually know this, when I did a game jam in your area, I named it the team Space Jam 2. Just yeah. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play LeBron, and boy, all his moves, I hated every single one of them.
You
Like,
hated
yeah,
them?
they move in weird ways.
I thought you were wave dashing.
Yeah,
You showed me that, and I was like, holy shit, there's wave dashing in this? Are you serious? You were so speedy. It was madness.
Yeah, the game has an unusually high ceiling, which is nice if you're like, is this just a kid's game? It's like, no, it's got a lot of skill to it. But yeah, LeBron's attacks are very strange to me, coming from the characters I played in Smash. So that is a perfect example of your question, which is a character I like, but I really don't actually like playing them, and I tell that to people all the time. And I'll tell. So
I need more though. I need more.
Yeah.
I need more. We got to dig into this, right?
Absolutely.
So like, how long did it take you to realize that the movement set was just not for you? Because like, look, you're analytical about these things, so I know you knew in an instant. You pressed the buttons 3 times, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yep.
But I know that you played with that character for about an hour and a half, and still said, "What the fuck is this?" But you did not come up that J curve.
Right.
And if nobody knows about J curves in mathematics or whatever, right, in statistics, like something comes up, drops really steeply, but then the next jump is a bigger high than the previous one. It's really important for power difficulty and stuff like that.
I'll give you my experience. It's not going to be a typical one, but personally, this isn't my first rodeo. Like, I don't mind playing awkward or bad characters even, because in the end, I love the recognition I get for it. I love being at Evo, and I love having like a huge crowd behind me. Because people are like, who the hell is this guy playing this character, and how did he get this far in the tourney? That is very so I like I said before, I like playing characters that people don't really play, because it gets that effect in the end.
What role does this character play within the general game to you? Like, what are they supposed to do? Can you give me a very quick rundown of the movement set?
Yeah. So he throws basketballs around, and if you do it well, the balls basically fill the screen. They're area control in a way.
They bounce?
Yeah. So if you're really skilled with them, you can have 3 balls going, and it's an obstacle. It becomes an obstacle course for the opponents. It's kind of interesting.
And they don't hurt that character? They don't hurt you?
No, not teammates. So that's like in a very small nutshell.
Wow.
But I will say this. I got roped into a Multiverses tournament in a couple weeks, and that's when I dropped him. Normally, I'm like, I'm gonna work with this character and figure out how to make him work.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, all right, I need to figure.
Calvin's getting on the pro circuit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want some of this Evo money.
Yeah.
I want some of this side money over here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm like, all right, it's Bugs Bunny time. Screw it all.
That's it. So Bugs is top tier for you.
Yeah, he's definitely, he is top tier. He's gonna get nerfed after Evo, so we'll see.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it's kind of the same question to you, and this doesn't have to apply to fighting games, like, because in Valorant you pick a character, or Overwatch. Overwatch is one where people are gonna pick the character that they almost visually gravitate to. I'm gonna guess 90% of people do that.
Which is a gigantic, which is also a massive problem, because people want to play the characters that are cool, but those are not usually the ones that like fit the team.
Well, it's a trap.
and then everybody rages, and it's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Everyone's like, I'm gonna pick Tracer. She's the main character. She looks awesome, but bam, she's too hard to play. So same question back to you. Like, how does it affect you? And how do you think it affects the general population when it's a mismatch?
It's interesting because I don't think that the general population perceives mismatches in terms of like the power balance of characters.
Yeah.
So like I go back to like what role does LeBron actually play within the game? It's like I don't really perceive that, right? Like
Yeah.
when I'm playing the game, I'm just trying to do as much damage as possible. I don't
I
know if
agree.
I'm a support. I don't know if I'm that second layer of gameplay doesn't register for a while. And I don't think that it registers for a bit. I just will find something that feels natural. If things to the power of the game, where I usually find it is in my win loss ratio. Like, did I feel like I had the tools to handle what was in front of me? Did I feel comfortable in so like when I'm playing Clash Royale, right? I pick my deck and I have my classic deck that's just all my free to play cards, and I know exactly how to use my deck effectively. I know that I have the tools to handle the other problems that are going to come my way from this this elo. Like I know that everybody has these cards. Most players are playing this meta, and I know that I have the tools to handle that. Now, that's all feel in fighting games for me for a long time. And I don't think that I've gone deep enough on like what that really means, right, in fighting games, because I've never played professionally, I've never played it competitively. I've played a lot of games competitively, but never fighting games. So I don't know if I'm that like lower tier average Joe player who just wants to just bash things and have a good time. And in that moment, then it is like, do I feel like I'm getting kicked around the place? And if I do feel like I'm getting kicked around the place, I'll instantly start switching characters
Right.
and trying to find something that works. It's a big reason why I started playing Ike actually in Super Smash Brothers. My friends are really good. They've been playing these games since they were, kids, right? And I'm terrible. I really am terrible. And my recovery was really, really bad, especially my up Bs and getting like back up on ledges and things like that. But I kind of found one combo that I could kind of pull off very consistently, and then I knew safely how to execute the moves when I was smashed on the edge, and I knew then, okay, I can at least go deeper on this character. Because I think that there's layers, like driving games. I go to the very first corner and I just spin out, right? And I have no idea. And then all of a sudden I start learning about brake control, and I go slower, and then I get into the corner, and now I'm finally getting around the corner. But I'm only doing that maybe because I like this car feels the best. This racetrack is the one that I like the most, so I'm willing to put the time in. So on the character front, it's like this is the character that I impression into, and then I find that another character that I might not necessarily impression into first off, because our first inkling might not be our best one, but finding that one that has the right tool set for me, and I say, okay, great, now I'll go that next layer. Okay, let's do exit entry, positions and corners. Okay, cool. Let's learn the move set. Let's actually open the move set window. Like, let's read, right?
Yeah.
Let's actually read the character's move set. And I think that's the thing. Is like players need help to chip away at the complexity of your game. These things are building blocks of small pieces that have built up to a lot of complexity. To go back to our like original topic, right? Projectile, charged, static objects that sit on the world. Bounce is a big one. I've seen that on a few different characters. Movable objects, things that anybody on your team can hit. Right, you make the box, but I can still hit it, and I don't need that many tools to be able to do that. I just need to be able to swipe at while I'm beside it. Right. These are all very simple concepts, but have now bubbled up into this bigger side of things. Yeah. And I think getting players to, like, I think purposely, maybe this is not the case, but having some characters that are simpler than others, that are maybe not the best in class, but just actually have like an abstractly clearer move set, are extremely important to build in when we're building that initial character roster,
For sure.
right? So like we want to also think about, when we're thinking of those player archetypes, who's going to play the A star, but also who wants to be the showman, right? League of Legends, you have assassin characters, you have Zed. Oh, this is the character that runs in 5v or 1v5 and just executes one person, right? Who's that character for us? And thinking along those lines as well as who's going to be our Mario, who's going to be our very simple, they jump, they kick, but there's some fun or complexity within in all of that. I think that that's important for onboarding. I think that's important for trying to get people into that funnel, into that flow. But again, like as we're talking, there's a lot of different sides to this coin. And as the initial user goes straight to the character, whereas then later on they go to the mechanic, whereas the pro gamer goes to maybe the mechanic more so than the visual. And but it's all about how do you chip away at those layers and build into that mastery and build into that skill set.
Right. You know, so in Multiverses, when you have a beginner character, they put recommended there. So they don't call it beginner; they call it recommended,
That's
which
lovely.
is great because nobody's gonna. I'm not a beginner.
No, but it's nice that they if that's the case, then they've probably done that. They probably almost
Yeah.
purposely gone and said like, actually no, let's make this one maybe a little bit simpler.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean, to learn.
How when you play League? It's been a long time for me. But if you you hop in, there's 130 characters or whatever. It's like, how do you know which ones are easy mode? Or
You don't.
uh,
You-
yeah, I
Well,
was afraid of that.
you do when you're a degenerate psychopath who's played for 7 years or
Yeah.
played since Elise came out.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the only time. Like, there's a bunch of new characters now that I've never seen, no idea what they are, what they do, and it is so funny to go into a game with those characters. I don't play the game anymore,
Yeah.
but to go into a game with those characters and then just like they're like, it's almost sometimes like they're warping around the place. like if the characters are really fast assassin-y characters and you have no idea what it's going to do, you've no idea of these weird things of perceived range, right? It's really interesting when you understand what your character's bubble is. So it's like if somebody gets into my
Yeah.
bubble, I know I can execute my abilities and kill that character. Like if
Yep.
you're in my bubble, I'm going to hurt you. But that bubble's not on the map, but it is in my mind, and I
Yep.
see that all the time. But when you don't know those ranges, it's really, really interesting, and you don't know what the hell these characters can do, and you're just like looking at the visuals. I could not imagine a new player trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. Because when these games first came out, the pool was a lot smaller. So you saw those characters more. And the more you saw those characters, you would build that mastery of, oh, that's what that character can do to me when I'm in this position. I should either be out of this position or, tangentially, what are the other positions where that could also occur? I should not be in that position, or at least in that thing. And that's how you start building that mental range. But it's built up over time, it's built through failure. If the character roster is really wide, and yeah, sure, there's meta characters and, then, complexity layers in, especially in League or any MOBA or any sort of character battler, of what is the actual team that you pick, right? That's your roles, there's dynamics there, synergies between all those characters. Most the early players don't know any of those things. So you were just like on a base level, you are playing a more complicated game than chess without knowing how any of the pawns move or how any of the pieces move.
Yeah, this is completely relevant to this topic. We're talking about game complexity. Yeah, I was learning Tekken before, and there's like so many moves and characters, but now I'm just like playing Multiverses, and I can spend like so little time learning the game because there's like a small cast right now. I can learn everything without looking anything up. I can just observe. So it's like the sheer overall total complexity is now a lot easier to pick up.
And this is the thing then too, right? we've always I've harped on this for forever. It's like mastery of a game is about onboarding. It is about onboarding complexity, and it's not that you know what I mean, that what's supposed to teach you character rosters in League is the early free to play grind to level 30, right? I have to play through, and everybody else is playing with me within my level band, and because they're in my level band, they probably don't have that many characters, but there, you know, so there, but then becomes there other awkward things where because everybody gains currency and that currency can spend it in the store and I can just pay to buy all the characters, the pool gets a little messy. And that's the same thing in any of these free to play games. It's always going to happen. But how we get a player into matchmaking and they lose their first 3 games because they just don't know what the game is or how the game works or anything like that. How do you fix that for the player within these games? Like, should there be more tutorialization? Should it all just be bots? Like, why doesn't Multiverses have, like, well, it does have a tutorial, I guess. I never played it. I was able to skip it instantly, and most players probably would just skip it instantly. But
Do you think that is a big part of why team games work? Because I'll say this: if you hopped on Multiverses and you just played with a rando, it probably may have not been so good. But because it was 2v2, and I was like, hey man, you want to play this together? You could hop in with a veteran. We were already doing like team combos like right off the bat. It was a really positive experience for you. It's like, damn, it's like it makes me think of how if you're playing League, you may on average be playing with like 2 other friends, which really helps the onboarding process. So I don't know, like
yeah,
for
so social play definitely helps. You know, not everybody has a friend. You know what I mean? So like building connections within the game is big. But I think what you point out there is a big place where these games can innovate on, which is the elder system. Why can't players that are in higher ranks mentor other players? Um, and I don't want to hear things like, oh, grooming, blah 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 blah. Like, I don't want to hear any, you know what I mean? That's not what I'm not trying to open kids up to voice chat and everything else like this, but can you build a system that allows for elder players? Just Tarkov did this actually, where they have like the guides, like you can have guided, like players be guides for you, and it's a way to get players to play together. But in this case, like, could you be, especially if toasts is like such a thing, you know what I mean, and I get currency from that, what happens if I help a player out and win 3 matches with them, or we go
That's
into
cool.
training and I can build a little training regiment with you, right? Like, we play the same character and I go "Duh-duh-duh-duh," and you see my character move and do the move, and then you do the move, and then we do it like over and over again, or we try to figure out some way to practice together. I don't know, like there's
That's kind of clever if you have like a in-game dojo system, like you pay with toast or something, and a guy just spends like 20 minutes teaching you something. I don't really know. It's kind
it'd
of
be
interesting.
insane. That would be class though. I would
Yeah.
love to see that. Uh, but here to get back to the whole thing, because we do need to, apologies, I need to run, so it's a couple of minutes. How would complexity, skills, all of these things, talk me through then the character process design here, right? That we've kind of tried to outline here. What's important, what's valuable, and how should other designers try to build frameworks here to do this? Like, so biggest thing that we've talked about is character impersonation, like the style of the character is
Yeah.
extremely important.
That's number one.
That's
Even if you don't have an IP, pick one. Pick a personality.
yeah. So maybe start there. Start trying to figure out what kind of character is that character, and how are players going to possibly play that character. Is this fast? Is this weird teleporty thing? How high skill is this character? Do you want it to be? Then from there, how do we get into the mechanic side of things? You know what I mean? That's where the innovation goes and says, well, this game I want it to be 2v2. 'Cause that's just a decision you just make. You say I want it to be 2v2 at the absolute heart. Great. I want there to be character overlap and cool ability overlap, that things happen. Awesome. Those are good stake posts to say of like product goals for you. From there, I would say then it is like, what are the stake posts that go around those things? Like, I don't know, like WB goes, with the typecast system, which I think is totally fine. They've taken MOBAs and said, hey, here are abilities, and those abilities do very specific things. So at least then the player recognizes if this character has a projectile and that character has a projectile, they might move differently, but they're I still know what that is.
Yeah.
Same thing
if you pick a tank, you're like, okay, I just know I need to run in there and do
right.
stuff.
And that helps then too, exactly. Because you're going on that more MOBA side in that classification, maybe you don't need to do this like whenever you're really thinking about deep, innovative movement sets. You'll focus and build a real design and real mechanics, like do it yourselves. But in this case, to try and give yourself a framework to build against these things, having those types that you can say, armor. Okay, well, what counters armor? Armor break. Well, great. Some characters can do that, and then other characters can have this, and then those then become very natural strengths and weaknesses of characters. Playing around with the sizes of those things, taking into account that into the movement set and building that into the game balance. Like, those are generic things. If that character is bigger, it probably does more damage. But maybe play with that even as a concept then too, you know what I mean? Or what the in-between. That's where your like ball of real design is gonna come in. But thinking about it from the social side, I think is just, and who is going to be looking at these characters and how visually appealing is it on the screen. I'll go back as well as like fighting games are competitive games. Competitive games are viewed. A big portion of competitive players don't ever make it to the stage, but that's where they all want to believe where they are. That's where their power fantasy is in the end of the day, right? The winner's circle. It's us versus them. So how can I also make that game, this is why character reinforcement's awesome. It's like making that character look cool is almost as important as to what it actually does. So think simply on mechanics and build those into little building blocks and build it up into something. But focus on the character by itself and put a lot of time there.
Totally agree. And I'd even say the personality is probably even more so for especially casuals.
Yeah, cool. That's super interesting. I never would have thought, at the start of this, when we were going to start talking about how to build mechanics and everything, that actually, like, it didn't feel like talking through it, that the mechanics ever necessarily felt like they mattered all that much. All right, Calvin, thank you so much, buddy. Enjoy yourself.